visit AffordableDentures.com. That's 1-800-DENTURE or visit AffordableDentures.com to find the practice near you. Schedule your new smile consultation today. Services provided by an Arizona licensed general dentist. Affordable Dentures and Implants. Go ahead and smile.
Go ahead and smile.
You want Jersey Mike's signature sub? You get a number 13 original Italian. You want a dramatic radio idea? You get me. Like this. I'm the 7th-string quarterback, and the other 6 quarterbacks go down. The coach yells, DeVito, you're in. The crowd is worried until I throw a touchdown. But the other team is celebrating. Apparently,
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix. You're busy. We get it. Life moves fast, like watching your favorite team in the final minutes of the game. It feels like there's no time to catch your breath. But for the next 10 seconds, this is your time to center yourself like the pros. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Feel that? A little more relaxed, like the calm before a big play? Now that your mind's a bit clearer, let's talk about something that can feel like a mental game right now. Voting. This election has been intense. Kind of like watching your favorite team's season of ups and downs. Sometimes it feels a little easier just to tune it out, but being a part of the action is what counts. We can't have anyone sitting on the sidelines. Voting is the ultimate act of self-care. It's not just about you, it's about everyone in the stands and on the field. We need everyone in the game, so follow the voting playbook. 1, check your registration. 2, check in with yourself. And 3, check your voting plan. Head to rockthevote.org today and show up for your future self and for the team.
Gear up for your hunting season with the Shields Hunting Sale event, running now through October 20th. Take advantage of great savings, like $300 off Vortex Fury HD 5000 rangefinder binoculars, $200 off Leupold VX5 HD scopes, 40% off First Light Cypher clothing. Get a $150 gift card with purchase of Seekins Havoc PH2 and discover so many more in-store and online. Save on your favorite brands now through October 20th at Shields and Shields.com.
Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. Life is full of questions. Is the presentation ready for work tomorrow? Why is there so much traffic at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday? Are your in-laws visiting this weekend or next? You've got plenty of things to worry about. Whether your car will start shouldn't be one of them. With an outrageously dependable battery under your hood, you can cross one of those questions off your list, which gives you time to answer more things like,
are we there yet?
Interstate Batteries, delivering the most trustworthy source of power to the world since 1952.
A noisy garage door is a cry for help that often requires only simple maintenance. Hi, I'm Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door Service. Don't wait until a simple garage door repair becomes a major problem. We fix garage doors fast and with quality parts designed to last a lifetime. Replacing the bottom rubber on your garage door can have a huge impact on the number of bugs you see in your garage and in your home. Call A1 Garage today and receive the best service, best parts, and best warranty in the industry.
A1 from day one.
Neon City Festival takes over downtown Las Vegas with art, food, and free performances by Alice in Wonderland, Neon Trees, Russell Dickerson, Seven Lions, and more. November 22nd through the 24th. Visit neoncityfestival.com.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix. It's the lunch break.
And we welcome you in to a new era here of KDUS AM 1060. It is the lunch break. I am your host, Chris Schubert. Hope you are all having a fantastic start to your week. Like I said, our debut edition here, live on YouTube. If you're watching us, hello. Got you on the AM side of things, got you on the HD side of things, the KDUS app where you're going to want to hang out with us. And boy, do we have a lot to get into here today. On the show, the Arizona Cardinals, a disappointing loss in Week 6. ASU on the rise. A lot to get into here on the show. But before we get into all of it, before we get into the Arizona Cardinals, before we talk a little baseball with the Arizona Diamondbacks, probably should introduce you to myself, Chris Schubert, who's going to be your host here every single day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here on the station. And I cannot start this show, I cannot start this new era without tipping the cap to the old era. That would be Bob Kemp and Kayla, who carried this station up until this point and would not be sitting in this chair, or I guess standing if you're watching us on the YouTube side of things, in this moment, being able to talk Arizona sports with you every single day without them. So again, a tip of the cap to both of those pioneers here in this marketplace, and should be a lot of fun being with you here every single day. Producer Dylan behind the glass with an entire audience. There's like 40 people that are watching me in the production room, which is very weird. You usually do radio without an audience. You just talk to yourself for 2 hours. I have an audience today. But thank you, everyone who is standing in the... That's a small production room over there. If you get a couple more people in there, the fire marshal is going to come in and kick you all out. So got to keep an eye on that. Producer Dylan, if you wouldn't mind, if you would lower the music a little bit, because we have a very important thing that we are going to start every single day here on the show with. And calling it the lunch break, you're on your lunch break, you're hanging out with me on my lunch break. And so every single day, the top story of the day is going to be our daily special. So let's get started with today's daily special.
Our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
And that would be the Arizona Cardinals and their Week 6 loss to the Green Bay Packers. And I think it's very easy to tell the story of this football game. 3 stats will be able to tell you the story of this game. 13 penalties for 100 yards, 3 turnovers, all 3 fumbles lost, and 89 yards of offense on the ground. That's it. We can just wrap up the show. That's it. That tells the story of what happened for the Arizona Cardinals in their Week 6 loss to the Green Bay Packers. They are not talented enough as a team to overcome those stats I just laid out in front of you. They are not a talented enough team to overcome 13 penalties for 100 yards, keeping the Green Bay Packers and whatever team they play constantly on the field. Not going to happen. They are not a talented enough football team to overcome 3 turnovers, to lose the turnover battle. Again, not talented enough. And a team that is built on the idea of running the football, a run-first operation, 89 yards of offense on the ground is not going to cut it. They cannot overcome those numbers. The other thing they can't overcome is the holes that this team constantly digs themselves into. They trailed 24-10 at half this week. They trailed 23-10 last week. They won that one, surprisingly. And they trailed 17-7 at half against the Commanders. Again, not talented enough as a football team to overcome those deficits. And if you want to be considered a good team in the National Football League, if you want to be one of the teams that is on those playoff graphics when we come around to December, you're not a team that constantly does this. You're not a team that digs yourself those types of holes, multi-score holes at halftime, against good football teams, mind you. The Green Bay Packers in an NFC North where everybody's above 500. You spot them a 14-point lead at halftime at their home field. You play a very good 49ers team. You spot them a 13-point, 2-score lead going into halftime. You somehow find a way to win that football game. But again, not going to be good enough in the long run. This team is not talented enough to constantly overcome those mistakes. This is not Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. This is not Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is not an elite offense that can keep up with the Joneses offensively. They're just not there yet. A lot of people don't want Drew Pensing calling plays anymore for this team moving forward. We'll get into that a little bit later on here on the show. But good teams constantly don't find themselves in these situations. They aren't teams that are behind the 8 ball. This team's not designed to come back from those deficits I just laid out. They have a defensive-minded head coach. Jonathan Gannon wants to play tough defense, wants to play a low-scoring game. Their offensive philosophy is give the ball to James Conner a bunch. So you want to play really good defense, you want to grind the game to a halt, and you want to run the football. The moment you're down 2 scores, the moment you have to play catch-up, it's it. It's over. You're not going to be able to play in the flow and in the style that you want to play in, and then it throws everything off. So if you're going to have that philosophy, and it's not a bad philosophy to have, you want to play good defense, you run the football, control the time of possession, keep those opposing teams that have really good offenses and really good quarterbacks off the field. I get it. It is a winning formula if you can do it successfully. But the Arizona Cardinals can't do it successfully. And they found themselves in the same situation again yesterday. Down multiple scores, needing to completely upend what they do philosophically to try to crawl back into it. And then the moment that they do crawl back into it, it's okay, we're going to go back to what got us here in the first place. We're going to go back to running the football. And then the Packers are able to pull away in the second half. And let's not just talk about the slow starts for the offense, although it's very easy for us to do that. These are their first 4 drives of the game yesterday. And I'm sure you watched them. 3 and out, 5 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So 3 of your first 4 drives are 3 and outs. Before you can even think about the adjustments this team needs to make, it's 17-0, and you've had 1 drive where you've picked up a first down. You have an undermanned defense. There is no magic fix. There is no reinforcements coming that are going to make a huge impact. Having Darius Robinson along this defensive line, yes. Any help this team can get getting after the quarterback would be much welcomed. But they're an undermanned group. And we're going to give out, I don't know what the official name for it yet is, but we'll give out the blame pie in hour number 2. And we'll assign blame for this loss yesterday because there's plenty to go around. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the people who deserve the blame for what happened yesterday are people that can't fix this in the moment. These are off-season fixes that this team has. They do not have the guys up front to repeatedly put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And you played an opposing quarterback yesterday in Jordan Love, that if you're going to give him time, if you're going to allow him to be able to just march his team up and down the field, because you can't get after the quarterback, you can't put pressure on him consistently, you can't force him into mistakes, then you, every single week, are going to be looking up and trailing by multiple scores at halftime. And there's no magic fix to it. There is no fix that this team has that will be able to get them out of this. We're not going to be all negative here on the show. I'm sorry, okay? We had to start with the negativity that was the Arizona Cardinals. I apologize. But we're going to do some positivity on the other side because ASU has beaten their win total in Vegas. They won their 5th game. They're not ranked. I'll yell about that on the other side as well. But the Arizona State Sun Devils are a big surprise here in the Big 12, winning their 5th game last weekend. We will talk about that here on the other side. It's the lunch break on KDUS AM 1060.
Breaking news, and this one is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about new customers at Bet365 because they get $200 in bonus bets when they bet $5. And even better, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, and player props.
There you have it. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bet. And see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona. Terms and conditions apply.
Check out the Doug Gottlieb Show, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on KDUS AM 1060.
At Shane Company, we make finding your perfect engagement ring fun and easy. Because let's be honest, you might feel a little stressed out. We get it. That's why we do all the hard stuff. It's our job to bring you the biggest selection of beautiful diamonds and colorful gemstones, so many amazing settings, and all the customization your heart desires. We've got your style and your price range covered, and we're here to guide you every step of the way. Come in for a warm welcome and leave with your dream ring and an experience you'll never forget. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
This holiday season, the Arizona Lottery is celebrating the little things with holiday scratchers like joy, happiness, giving, and a dash of fun. With the chance to win up to $500,000 and an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii with the Hawaiian Holiday Giveaway. Give the gift of joy with Arizona Lottery's Holiday Scratchers. Visit ArizonaLottery.com to find a retailer near you.
Welcome back to the show, the lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. I'm your host, Chris Schubert. In all of the hoopla of the first segment, I forgot to give out the phone number because I'm sure you're just as angry as I was watching that Cardinals game yesterday. 602-260-1060, the phone number if you want to join the conversation. Would love to take your calls. Would love to hear from you on what is a day in which there's negativity surrounding the Arizona Cardinals, which we will cover at length, even more so than we did in the first segment. But then on the flip side, there is the positivity of what we saw with the Arizona State Sun Devils winning their 5th game of the year for a team that had a win total in Vegas of, producer Dylan, 4.5. Yes, yay, that's what it was, 4.5 in Vegas. They've already beaten that win total, and Kenny Dillingham made sure to remind everybody of that after the game by saying, yes, you got your win total. That extra money that you made in Vegas, you should put that into the collective. He's always talking about the collective. He's a guy that understands how things work in today's modern college football. And I wonder if it's time to have the conversation about giving Kenny his flowers for what he has done so far. And not in the sense of, let's talk about a Big 12 title game, not in the sense of, let's talk about college football playoff. No, we're not going to have those conversations here. But he is exuding all of the confidence and the swagger that you want from a college head coach in 2024. The way that he handles himself, the way that he conducts himself is just that of a modern coach who understands how the job needs to be done. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't think this is hyperbolic. The job that he has done is extraordinary. This guy takes over a program that was, listen, I'm an alum. I think I'm allowed to say this. It was a dumpster fire. It was a mess. Okay? You had the previous regime, new model, whatever they were calling it, didn't work. You had recruiting violations. You had NCAA investigations. You had just a black cloud hovering over the program. And so this former Sun Devil, who is an OC, brings a new modern approach to coaching the game of football from an offensive perspective, comes in here to his alma mater and has to clean up that mess. And not only that, not only does he have the recruiting violations, not only does he have the stench of just the underperformance that the team had in the Herm Edwards era, but then he has to recruit in this NIL era. And normally, you have to give coaches, 3 years in order to institute their culture, their philosophy, their recruiting classes. It takes about 3 years for you to get to a place where your roster, your program, your building is in the image that you have designed as a head coach. It takes 3 years. So now you get year one. He just has to get in there and he's basically a janitor. The football doesn't matter. He's a janitor. He's just cleaning everything up. He's instilling a new culture that he hopes takes in year 2 and year 3. He has to figure out who's staying, who's going, and he has to completely change the philosophy around the way this program works. So that's what year one's all about. Year one's not about wins and losses. It didn't look great at times, but he's basically a glorified janitor for year one. No offense to the janitors out there, but that's what Kenny Dillingham was in year one. And then after he gets done being a janitor, oh, by the way, the building's changed because now we're going to a new conference. We're going from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. So you come in year one, you have to clean up the mess. Now year two, you're kind of starting to get there. You're starting to move up the ladder, but you get knocked down because, okay, now we're going to a new conference, new opponents, new way of recruiting, new everything. And that presents its own set of challenges. This is not a normal situation that this team found themselves in, that this program found themselves in. And here we are talking about a team that is 5-1. Probably should be ranked, by the way. I know they received votes, but probably should be ranked. Beating a ranked Utah team. Beat Mississippi State earlier in the year. Team should be ranked 5-1, but that's all right. We'll save that for another time. Their win total in Vegas, 4.5. They beat that already. And producer Dylan, you'll learn this about me very quickly. I pulled the receipts on this. I took a screenshot of the preseason Big 12 media poll that had ASU to finish last. I screenshotted it today. I'm saving it for a tweet for later. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12 football preseason media poll. Now, like I said, I don't want us to now all of a sudden be like, oh, ASU's going to the Big 12 title game, CFP playoff. That's our spot. No, it's not easy. But I think the win on Saturday to get this team to 5 wins on the season, to be, 1 or 2 wins away from being bowl eligible, when people thought that was going to be a 50-50 shot, to get this program into this place is just an absolutely fantastic job by everybody involved. I mean, you have a coach that came into a program that he loved. And I think that's such an underrated part of this. This is a program that he absolutely loved, adored, went to school here, is an alum. This is the dream job for him. I'm sure you saw it by now, the social media clip of him post-game, getting interviewed by ESPN, jumping with the student section, or the students that had stormed the field. That's what it's all about. That's what college football should still be about in 2024. And what's going on right now doesn't guarantee future success. It does not guarantee that next year it's going to be an even bigger step forward and this team is going to be that sleeping giant that everybody talks about. It's one of my least favorite phrases in all of sports now because of how many times it has been applied to ASU and how many times it has not been a sleeping giant. It's just been asleep. Just has not awoken. It's just been in a deep slumber this entire time. But what I can say with confidence that I don't think I ever thought during the Herm Edwards era is that I believe in the coach and in the messaging and in the process. Now, some of the process that Herm tried to institute when he was here is still the way college football works right now with the NIL perspective. But the recruiting violations, the way they went about it, it did not meet at least what internally the expectations were. I know externally there were people who kind of side-eyed that hire at the time. But I want this to be about Kenny and the flowers that he deserves. Because it is unbelievable what he has been able to do in just a short amount of time, getting this program back on a path towards being relevant in a new conference where they're going up against some really tough programs. That's not an easy thing to do. You recruit one way to play the teams in the Pac-12. You now need to recruit a completely different way to play the new teams, some of the same teams, but a lot of the new teams that you're going to face in the Big 12. And the travel is different, and the structure is different. There are so many changes that occur when you change conferences, and Kenny had been here for 6 minutes before he had to undergo all of that change. And so to take the team from where they were when he got here to where they are already halfway through, he hasn't been on the job for 2 years, a year and a half. Says the right things, conducts himself in the right way. And I'm sure there are some people out there that don't necessarily love the way he probably still acts like he's a student here at ASU sometimes. I love it. That's what this program has needed. They have needed a figurehead at that position, being the head coach of a football program that can inspire the confidence and can inspire the fan base to get energized to be involved. I know for me personally, in the last era, wasn't that exciting, wasn't that energetic. Now, wins and losses play a big part of that. But do you feel the energy when Kenny talks at the podium? Do you feel the energy in the stadium through the first 6 games of the year? This team is fun. This team has undergone, in less than 2 years, a seismic culture shift. That cannot be undersold. That cannot be understated. What it means long-term, Kenny's going to have to continue to build on the success that he's having now. Where I think this then becomes sustainable is I believe in Kenny Dillingham. I believe in the process here. Because you can look at the results and say, 5-1, great. But it's the process of how they got here to turn things around this quickly, to put this program in a place where they're getting the national love, where they're getting those votes, when they're being talked about as, has the sleeping giant finally awoke? That's the place this program wants to live. They don't want to live in NCAA recruiting violations and Herm Edwards and Antonio Pierre. They don't want to live in that era anymore. And it was going to be really hard to wash away those memories. But Kenny's done it in less than 2 years. And so I wanted to start this week, coming off the big victory, with an opportunity to give him his flowers. I don't know what it leads to. I don't. But right now, in the moment, it's fun. And that's what it should be about. It should be about the fun that we're having in the moment watching this team and the belief that this is only going to continue to grow. Because there's a lot of other programs right now that were promising great success. Maybe some in the Big 12. I'm not saying any names. Colorado, I'm not saying it. No, I didn't say it. But you have programs that promised, they overpromised and they underdelivered. Kenny Dillingham in the early going, I think has lived up to every promise. I don't think he's under-promised. He's told you exactly what he was going to do. He's just over-delivered his very realistic promises. And that's a credit to him. It's a credit to the people in that building because it's not just a one-man operation. They have turned things around in a big way. Is that enough positivity for everybody after the first segment? Is that enough? The audience. See, you know what I will say for those of you watching on YouTube and that you can't see when the negativity stopped, everybody left. They were here for the negativity. They wanted me angry. They wanted the negativity. The positive segment, everybody in the building, back to work. No audience here for the second segment inside the production room. So there was like 6 people in there. It's down to 2. And one of them is producer Dylan. He has to be here because he has to push the buttons. He has to get me in and out of break. So, all right, you want the negativity? The negativity is going to come back pretty quickly. We have the NFL Rewind. We go through all of the games yesterday in the National Football League, and I give you my thoughts. We'll do that next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Here in Flagstaff, Arizona, there are only 2 colors that matter: blue and gold. Head coach Brian Wright leads NAU football into a new era.
Down the sideline, it's going to be a pick 6.
Join us Saturday. The Lumberjacks host the Idaho State Bengals for homecoming. Our coverage begins at noon on the NAU Lumberjacks Sports Network.
NAU Idaho State on AM 1060 KDUS. Need something to listen to during your lunch? Starting Monday, October 14th. Spend your lunch with Chris Schubert during our lunch break from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. right here on KDUS AM 1060.
When you enter a place of business, you're owed a legal duty that the place of business is safe for you to shop in. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you suffered an injury at a place of business, our duty is to protect you after that harm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.com.
Don't let car service overwhelm you. The choice is simple. Choose practical. Choose Brakes Plus. We'll guide you through the repairs and provide transparent pricing without all the fancy extras. Mention this ad for $10 off an oil change. Visit BrakesPlus.com to schedule your appointment today. Brakes Plus, where practical people go for exceptional service.
When America says, give me a break, America comes to Brakes Plus.
We believe everyone deserves access to fresh food. That's why the Kroger Company created the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste program to share fresh food with the people in our communities. Our program and foundations have donated 3 billion meals since 2017. That's nearly 10 meals for every person in the U.S. Together, we can do more for our neighbors. Just round up your purchase at checkout. Fries, fresh for everyone.
Teeth are amazing. That's why at Affordable Dentures and Implants, they believe it's time the world sees your smile. With new financing options available, you don't need to wait to get your smile back. 6 practices in the Phoenix area open to serve you. Schedule a free new smile consultation. Call 1-800-DENTURE or visit affordabledentures.com to find a location near you. Services provided by an Arizona licensed general dentist. Affordable Dentures and Implants. Go ahead and smile.
Go ahead and smile.
Are you passionate about preserving Arizona's most precious resource? Dive into a rewarding career in water resources technology at Gateway Community College. With hands-on training, expert faculty, and state-of-the-art facilities, receive the education you'll need to start making waves in your new high-demand career in water resources or wastewater treatment. Enroll now and make a splash with Gateway's Water Resources Technology program. Visit gatewaycc.edu/water. That's gatewaycc.edu/water to get started.
Order like a champ at Raising Cane's. With tailgates of hand-battered chicken fingers and cane sauce and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade, you can guarantee victory for every game day meal. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Proud partner of the Arizona Cardinals.
Hey, Phoenix, Doug Gottlieb here. I'm bringing the best sports talk weekdays to you, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on KDUS AM 1060.
Welcome back to lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. They've allowed us to stay on the air. We're off to a great start now. They've kept us here. We're allowed to continue. 602-260-1060 is the number. I know you have plenty of thoughts here on the Cardinals, the Sun Devils. We'll talk some Suns here in hour number 2. A lot to get into, but not unfortunately. It's a football Monday, right? It's a football Friday, football Monday. It's what we do here. So very football driven here on a Monday. And so every Monday, we're going to have the NFL Rewind, our rapid reactions to all of the games in the National Football League yesterday. So, producer Dylan, if you don't mind, could you fire off the music, please? Oh. I mean, if there's not a song that gets you excited for football, and it's this. I mean, I'll go play right now. Well, we can stop the show. Mike, IT, get the football. We're going out in the parking lot after the next segment. Draft teams, we're going. That's what this music gets me ready for. I'll go play right now. So we start in Atlanta as the Falcons took on the Panthers. This is what it sounded like.
Hits in motion. Cousins fires. Oh, touchdown Falcons, Drake London. Between a couple of defenders. Coming off his career-high 12 catches, he scores this one.
A 38-20 win for the Atlanta Falcons over the Carolina Panthers, a Panthers team that thought they were turning things around when they moved things to Andy Dalton. Not so much as the Falcons continue to roll, and they pick up a 38-20 victory. Now, you probably didn't get up early for this like I did. You probably weren't up at 6:30, and it was probably a good thing because the Bears and the Jags played in London, and it was ugly for the Jags.
To Williams is left. Let's throw into the end zone. There's Connect! Doing it all! Here in London. $13-3 with 13 seconds to go.
Thank you to Rich Eisen and the NFL Network. You can hear Rich Eisen here every day, a little bit after me, from 3 until 5. The Bears with a 35-16 win over the Jags. Caleb Williams, 226 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, the 1 interception. We would look at this as his coming out party for the Bears, who win their 4th game of the season. Man, the NFC North, everybody wins. Nobody loses up in the NFC North. It was Drake May's first start for the Patriots. He took on the Houston Texans. It went about as well as you thought it was going to go.
It's 1st and 10. Pierce getting a block outside from Schultz, finding room. There he goes. It's a foot race with Tavai and Gonzalez, who pushes him out before he hits the pylon. No, they give it to him. It's a touchdown. A 54-yard touchdown run. Damian Pierce.
Kevin Harlan, CBS there with the call. 41-21, the Texans moved to 5-1 on the season. C.J. Stroud, 3 touchdowns. Drake May's first start. Didn't look terrible. Just there's a ways to go. There is a ways to go for that team. Probably the game of the weekend, the Ravens, the Commanders in Baltimore. Washington up for the challenge, but it was Baltimore who got things done.
Now Washington brings everyone down. Jim, look at how many guys are right here.
2nd and 5. Still faced out with power, with Henry, with a touchdown. Great call, Tony. His 2nd touchdown of the game.
You're exactly right. You got to give this guy the ball. That's why you go get him. There's very little space inside the 10. You've got help on the sidelines and the back end, so you can't create space. So the only way to do it, bring Ricard back from the left side and let the big guy. No one even wants to hit him. He's so big, Jim. You saw him at practice.
This is what they want to do. They want to run the football. They want to make it difficult for you with Derrick Henry, with Lamar Jackson, 2 tight ends. They just want to pound the ball. But credit to Washington. I know there are no moral victories in the NFL, and they wanted to win this game. And for a young team with Dan Quinn in his first year there as the Washington head coach, with Jaden Daniels as a rookie quarterback for this team, they battled the Baltimore Ravens. And so for a team that is maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, so far, so good for Washington. I know it was a loss yesterday, but you have to feel really good about where they are at. I don't know if anybody watched this game. I know fans of Philly and Cleveland probably did, but they probably didn't enjoy what they saw.
From the 48 on 2nd down. Hurts going deep. And the catch is made by Brown.
A.J. Brown with the catch that sealed the victory for the Eagles, 20-16 over the Browns. 2 takeaways from this game that are completely unrelated to the actual game. 1, Nick Sirianni is a dork. That's the nicest way I can say it for the radio. He goes at it with the Philly fans. They're struggling. They're booing this team constantly. And then after the game, after they seal the victory, The first thing this guy does as the head coach of a organization that has Super Bowl aspirations, a good team, he turns to the Philly crowd and starts taunting them. I'm from the East Coast. Nick, let me tell you something. That's not going to work out in the long run for you, bud, because those Philly fans, you're going to get blown out probably in the next couple of weeks, and it's not going to be pretty what gets said to you on the sidelines. So I do not understand why that is the immediate thing he's thinking of. It just, he just seems like a coach that has completely lost his composure. I just do not understand where this franchise is right now. And yeah, they win the game. It was ugly. The Browns, I don't know what they're doing as a franchise. I cannot believe that Deshaun Watson is still going to continue to start for them at the quarterback position. But man, just my takeaway from that game is, Nick Sirianni, what are you doing, man? Like, you know that crowd. They're going to turn on you. They might have liked you in the moment, but they're going to turn on you very, very quickly. And so jarring with them, probably not the best thing to do. This was a little bit of a throwback here because Tampa Bay played New Orleans, and I felt like I was watching Jameis Winston and Drew Brees for these two teams because they were just up and down the field.
Four-man rush. Mayfield in the pocket, throws end zone. It's caught by Otten for the touchdown. An up and down drive ends in a score for Tampa Bay.
Not just the drive, Adam Amin. Thank you to Fox for that. The score as well, 51-27. Again, it was like I was back in the early 2010s watching these two teams go at it in an NFC South duel. I didn't realize that Baker Mayfield was about that. I didn't know that he could put up 50 points. The Saints starting Spencer Rattler, Derek Carr out with the oblique injury. Looks like Derek's going to miss the next couple of games, so Rattler's going to be the starter for the next couple of weeks. And I know the way the score looks. They got blown out at home, but kind of impressed with the way Rattler played. You can see what he provides this team, a mobility element that you don't necessarily have with Derek Carr. So it'll be interesting to see now that he's got one game under his belt, if they're able to institute a little bit more, get him involved in the running game a little bit more, and maybe that opens things up for a team that started the year really hot, but some underperformance, some injuries have led them to this point. I'm just going to play this clip because apparently Joe Flacco still plays in the NFL and he's throwing touchdowns.
Pittman just 3 targets, 1 catch. Here they come. Flacco to the end zone. It is caught. Jump ball. Pittman. Touchdown.
We talk about the NFC South game being a throwback. That's a throwback. Joe Flacco throwing touchdown passes to Michael Pittman Jr. My goodness. Thank you to CBS there on the call as the Colts beat the Titans 20-17. It was an AFC West battle between the Chargers and the Broncos, and it was a close one. Jim Harbaugh missed a little bit of this game, but was okay, came back. First time I've ever seen a coach listed as questionable to return. They put out a tweet, Jim Harbaugh, coach, questionable return. What? I was watching Red Zone. I'm like, what is going on? Questionable to return. He's the coach. If he's not out there, what's going on? But nope, the Chargers pick up a 23-16 victory.
Averaging just 22 pass attempts per game. This is his 11th pass of the first quarter, and he's got an open man on the wheel route. It's the rookie, Kamani Vidal, his first NFL touch.
I won't bore you the details of the Steelers beating the Raiders 32-13 or the whatever Sunday Night Football was last night between the Bengals and the Giants, but I will leave you with this because if you know any Dallas Cowboy fans and maybe you're friends with them but you don't like that they're Cowboy fans, perfect opportunity to maybe check in on them, see how they're doing after they get blown out at home 47-9. Detroit walks in there and they walk out with a victory and they're running trick plays.
Get into that in a second. Oh, here's a little trickery. Straight Brown back to God. Flea flickers, got Laporta wide open. Sam Laporta, foot race towards the end zone, diving touchdown. Unreal. Turn to page 140. Flea flicker.
Come on, if you're not having fun watching that, you don't have a heartbeat.
Tom Brady having fun on the broadcast there with the flea flicker. I mean, Detroit in their bag, Ben Johnson in his bag, trick plays, had everything working, a 47-9 victory for the Lions. That is your Week 6 NFL Rewind. One more game tonight. We'll get into that a little bit later on here in the show. But up next, here on the lunch break, it's back to the negativity. We have a blame pie to give out. Who is the most to blame for what happened in yesterday's loss for the Arizona Cardinals? We'll get into that here on the other side. It's the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Looking for a gift for your kids or loved ones? Consider getting them something they'll use for the rest of their lives. An education. Open an AZ 529 education savings plan today. Contribute just $50 a month, and they'll have nearly $20,000 by graduation. Plus, your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. An AZ 529 account will help them unwrap their full potential. Learn more at az529.gov.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
Catch the Doug Gottlieb Show weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m. right here on KDUS AM 1060 and online at KDUS1060.com.
Exciting news from the Window Depot. Their brand new location is now open near Cave Creek and Bell Road. Discover the largest selection of vinyl windows, doors, cabinets, skylights, countertops, and more. Planning a remodel? Their experts are here to make your vision a reality with exclusive special order options and a wide selection of in-stock inventory available to go home today. For the best price and the biggest inventory, visit one of their 3 Valley locations or shop online at thewindowdepot.com. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
Breaking Benjamin. And Stained. Friday, October 18th at Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater. With special guest Daughtry and Lakeview. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Breaking Benjamin and Stained, part of the America First Credit Union concert series.
Welcome back. Lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. The phone number to call, 602-260-1060. Your thoughts on the Cardinals, Sun Devils, anything else from Week 6 in the NFL. We'll talk some Suns in hour number 2, some Diamondbacks in hour number 2. But getting back to the Cardinals' 34-13 loss to the Green Bay Packers yesterday, I think it's only fair to give out blame or credit in the case of a victory each and every week. So some weeks we'll be giving out some victory pie. There are other weeks like this week where it will be the blame pie to see who is most at fault for what happened in this game yesterday. And I have, let me just see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people are a part of the blame pie this week for the Arizona Cardinals in their Week 6 loss to the Green Bay Packers. And we'll start with the person who I believe has the majority of the blame for this game yesterday. And I would ask the audience here in the studio to make sure that my math adds up to 100% here, because I did it early this morning and I'm not necessarily sure if this adds up to 100. So when we get there, please make sure that it adds up to 100%. But 50% of the blame, the lion's share of the blame for yesterday's loss to the Green Bay Packers, I believe lies squarely with Jonathan Gannon, the head coach. And the reason why is the head coach of a football team is the person that holds the team accountable. He is the person that sets the tone. He is the person that is involved in game planning, even though he's maybe not necessarily calling the plays on either side of the ball. They are the person that sets the tone, sets the message, sets the mantra, and holds the team accountable. They are the CEO of the team. And I've watched a team now 3 times in short order get off to slow starts. And yeah, they were able to get away with one last week against the 49ers. They were able to come back in that game, but they are not going to be able to make a living playing that way. They cannot hand opponents big multi-touchdown leads, multi-score leads. They were down 14 at halftime yesterday, and only because they were able to put together a small drive there at the end to kick a field goal and then started the second half with the ball. So when this happens week after week after week, and it's not just an isolated incident, when this isn't just a one-off because maybe you had some long travel or the other team's coming off of a bye or whatever one-off excuse I can come up with, when those don't apply, when it is a multi-week thing, then we get to a place where the blame has to go on the head coach. And that's where the blame, I think the majority of it lies. And he would tell you that. He would tell you it starts with us as coaches. It starts with me as the head coach. That's who deserves the criticism, who deserves the blame. Well, I'm going to give it to you, Jonathan Gannon. You are 50% of the blame for the way that this team was unprepared and has gotten off to a third consecutive slow start. 25% of the blame. So now we're at 75%. 75% of the blame lies with these two people. And that would be Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator for this Arizona Cardinals team. You have to find a way to make an adjustment in game. When this team was able to find success in the second half, they were doing so by getting Trey McBride involved in the offense. And then once that started to work, and once they were able to have some big chunk plays, they then immediately went back to running the football with an ineffective James Conner. He was banged up. He was hurt. He was not at 100%. And yet, because that's the identity of the team, because that's the mantra that this team lives by philosophically, they all roads lead back to James Conner. And when James Conner is healthy and this offense is at peak performance, yes, all roads lead through James Conner. But there are weeks where that's not going to be the case. There are weeks where you're going to have to find other ways to keep your offense ahead of schedule. You're going to have to find other ways to get your offense into flow. Because if you're going to have three and outs on your first 4 drives, you are going to always be trailing at halftime. And I don't trust this coaching staff. I don't trust the personnel right now to be able to dig themselves out of that mess. And they're 2-4. They're a flawed team right now. And Drew Petzing has to share some of that responsibility for these slow starts offensively, for these early 3-and-outs. They had back-to-back 3-and-outs in the game yesterday. And they had maybe it was their second or their third drive was a 5-play drive, so they picked up 1 first down. But 3 of their first 4 drives were 3-and-outs. You can't hand the opposition those types of opportunities. You can't hand the opposition the time of possession battle. Not on the road, not in Green Bay, not against that team, not against that coaching staff. You can't do it. You'll get out-coached, you'll get out-schemed, you'll get out-manned, you'll get outworked, you'll get outscored. And that's what happened yesterday. So 25% of the blame going to Drew Petzing. 10% of the blame going to go to the general manager, Monty Ossenfort. Because this defense is unfixable right now. There is not a single thing that this organization can do to fix the issues that they have defensively in terms of getting after the quarterback. Yes, they will get Darius Robinson back, and that will help. That will make them a more potent group. But it's not a cure-all. It's not the magic elixir. It is not the thing that's going to immediately push them to being a top 5 defense in this league. They are a ways away from being the team that they need to be defensively. And it's not a coaching problem. The scheme's not the problem. It's a personnel issue. There is so much work that needed to be done with this group this past offseason, and the money that Monty Ossenfort spent didn't go to the right places. It went to the interior of the defensive line to help shore up stopping the run, but they didn't address pass rush and getting after the quarterback. The money they spent in the secondary with corner Sean Murphy-Bunting is probably money they'd like to have back. It was a misallocation of resources. And so while he's not the one coaching the team up, he's not the one calling the plays, there's not a whole lot he is doing right now because it is in the middle of the season. 10% of the blame for yesterday is going to go to Monty Ossenfort. This next one's controversial. I'm aware of it. 10% of the blame is going to Marvin Harrison Jr. Leaves the game with a concussion. That's not the reason he's getting the 10%. The reason he is getting 10% of the blame, and it goes back to why Drew Petzing has 25% of the blame. With Marvin Harrison Jr.'s presence on this roster, it feels as if they force everything through number 18. And when you do that, it stops Michael Wilson from being able to be involved. It stops Trey McBride from being able to be involved. It stops your entire offense from finding a flow. And so this is not necessarily all on Marvin Harrison Jr., but his presence on this team, because of the prospect that he is, because the superstar that people think he can be, he just sucks a lot of the life out of the room. He requires so much attention from an offensive game plan perspective that I think at times the coaching staff overdoes it. You saw the course correction from his first game where he only had, the one catch for 4 yards. The second game, it was, we're just going to force feed Marvin. We're going to force feed him. And when you do that, you keep yourself from finding a flow. And you have other weapons on this team. That's not to say I don't want Marvin Harrison Jr. involved and being the leading target getter on this team. He is a star. He is somebody that can be a game changer, a game wrecker for this offense. But so can Trey McBride. Trey McBride showed last year when there wasn't a Marvin Harrison Jr. on this team an ability to change the way the games went for the Arizona Cardinals. He created mismatches defensively. He put other opposing defensive coordinators in a box, in a bind. And he had a lot of success in the second half with Kyler Murray, and that relationship grew as the year went on. And yet here we are. The only time yesterday that it was able to kind of break through and look like it did a year ago was when Marvin Harrison Jr. was out of the game with a concussion. And again, that's not on Marvin himself. It's just on what his presence does to the room. And so he's going to get 10% of the blame. Now, my math tells me 50, 25, 10, and 10. I've got 5% left. So that 5% that I have left, and no one has told me my math is wrong, so I believe I still have the 5% left, is going to go to Kyler Murray. And not because Kyler Murray played bad yesterday, but because Kyler Murray didn't play great yesterday. And this is the rub with Kyler Murray as the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. You don't see enough to completely buy in, but you see enough to not want to sell. And in a game like yesterday's, it was the perfect platform, the perfect opportunity for Kyler Murray to be the quarterback that lifts his teammates, that makes his teammates better. And I don't know if Kyler Murray is that type of quarterback. And if we are still asking that question in year 6 of this operation, then that's probably the answer. We have our answer by not having an answer. And so Kyler Murray didn't play bad. He didn't make any unforced errors. He didn't throw any brutal interceptions. He didn't throw a poorly timed pick six that changed the complexity of the game. He didn't do any of that. But he didn't, as the quarterback, as the leader, as the orchestrator of this offense, he did not lift up the teammates around him. And look, I can go chapter and verse across the National Football League of quarterbacks who lift up the players around them. You don't think Josh Allen, who's playing tonight in Monday Night Football, lifts the players around him? Absolutely does. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love. Look at the supporting cast that Jordan Love has. 2 years ago, none of those guys would be fantasy relevant. None of those guys would be players that you'd be paying attention to. But you are, because Jordan Love elevates those players because of how good Jordan Love is. Kyler Murray doesn't do that on a regular enough basis for this team. You see it in flashes. That's where it keeps you from selling. It keeps you from wanting to hop off the experience. But you don't see enough of the excellence that warrants thinking that Kyler Murray can take you into the next chapter. And that next chapter is making the playoffs and making deep postseason runs and competing for NFC championships and trying to break through in a Super Bowl. Does anybody feel right now, with what they've seen through the first 6 years of Kyler Murray's career, including this 6-game sample that we have this year, that he's the guy that's going to lead this team to the promised land? That's the problem. And if you're going to say that the answer is I don't know, that's your answer. You've got your answer right there. So 50% to Jonathan Gannon for having the team just completely unprepared and off to another slow start. And I'm not going to give him any excuses. It's the third time it's happened already this year. So 50% of the time, they've put themselves behind the 8 ball at halftime. And there was one game, I think it was the Lions game, where it was 7-7 at halftime. So that doesn't even count. Didn't even have a lead in that game. It's probably the Washington game. And in the Buffalo game, they had to have second half miracles to start the year. So this is a recurring theme, and that falls on the coach. When it happens more than once, when it is a recurring issue, that falls on the head coach. Look, the New York Jets, who are playing tonight on Monday Night Football, fired their head coach for this exact reason, because the team was constantly getting off to slow starts and was constantly unprepared and was constantly having performances of 13 penalties for 100 yards. Got Robert Saleh fired in New York. Not to say Jonathan Gannon's going to get fired or should get fired, but those are the things that when they begin to stack become a problem. So 50% of the blame going to Jonathan Gannon, 25% of the blame going to Drew Petzing. for this offense being stuck in mud at times, for this offense not being able to get out of first gear in the early going. In the modern NFL, you should not have 3 of your first 4 drives being 3 and outs. You can't have it. We are not going to mistake the Arizona Cardinals for a top 5 offensive talent team in the National Football League. But they don't have nobodies. Kyler Murray's not a nobody. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a nobody. James Conner, Trey McBride, these are not nobodies. They have an offensive line that is good enough to protect. There should be easy ways to get this offense into flow. Because we've seen this team against the Bills, against the 49ers last week. They showed it a little bit this week against Green Bay. They can go through phases where they very much look like the better team. Their defense buckled down in the second half and gave them a chance. They just couldn't execute. They turned the ball over too much. If you could just clean up a little bit of these slow starts, we would be talking about a much different team through 6 games. They went into this week. Think about all the negativity I've just put out in the first hour of the show about this team. They went into this week. If they won, they would have been statistically tied for first place in the NFC West. That was what was in front of them. That was what coming back last week against the 49ers opened up for them. And then they put this performance together, which showed you that last week was a fluke. That ability to come back is not sustainable. They're not good enough to do that. They're talented enough to win football games, but they have to play the game on their terms. They have to play the game in their script. Because we've seen when the script doesn't go their way, it goes sideways. There is no ability to adjust. And we'll talk a little bit in hour number 2 about Drew Petzing, because I've seen the Twitter noise. I've seen the social media noise that they want somebody new calling plays for the Arizona Cardinals on offense. They want Drew Petzing out the door. Pack your bags. Get out of town. And he was part of the blame tree today. He got a part of the blame, but not the lion's share of the blame. He's not the reason the team is hopefully unprepared. He's not the reason that the team is undermanned defensively. That's a Monty Ossenfort problem. And I know everybody loves Monty and they love the social media videos of how good he is in the draft room and how good he is at talking to other GMs and, he's wheeling and dealing and, look, it's Trey Benson, what a steal he was in the 3rd round. And, Darius Robinson, Marvin Harris, what a great job by Monty Ossenfort. Yes, Monty is very good on draft night. And you want somebody like that as your general manager. You want somebody who can make those shrewd moves, who is calm under pressure, who can thrive in those types of environments. I want that as my GM. But we also need to recognize that this offseason for Monty Ossenfort was a huge opportunity. A lot of money was available to him. And that money was not allocated correctly. Injuries haven't helped. But this team is completely undermanned defensively. And none of their issues were mysteries in the offseason. All of these issues were known in the offseason. We knew at the end of last year, this team couldn't get after the quarterback. They can't pressure the opposing QB. And yet, here we are again, week 6, talking about a 2-4 football team that can't get after the quarterback. Hopefully Darius Robinson comes back and he's a stud, because they're going to need him to be, or else this is going to slide off the rails in a hurry. And so that's why we're giving some of the blame to Monty Ossenfort. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Monty Ossenfort's 10%, we're just going to leave that there for the remainder of the season. He's probably going to get that every week. Depending on how the games go, he might not get it during the victory tree that we give out, if we give out some praise for being victorious. But certainly when things go wrong, he's more than likely going to have the nice little 10% carved out for himself. We'll just call that Monty's corner. He'll just have that every week. I've only got 90% to work with because Monty's going to get 10%. That's almost a guarantee. And Kyler Murray has to play better. And at some point, I don't know if it'll be next week. I don't know if it'll be 3 weeks from now. At some point, we're going to have the conversation here on the show of, is it time to end this experiment? Is it time to move on? Is it time to start thinking about who you can get in free agency, who you can get in the draft? There might be that conversation. That conversation might have to happen in the next couple of weeks, because the longer you go not knowing is the more you have been told that he's not the answer. And so, again, he was not bad yesterday. It's why he was the last guy on the list. He only got 5%. But he still missed an opportunity. I love the outro music, Bob. What a great selection by me. It sounds much better in practice than it did when I was picking the music. Kyler Murray's 5% is going to grow if week over week he continues to have these issues and continues to doesn't lift up his teammates. That's all he has to do. He's got a good supporting cast, a decent supporting cast. Allow those guys to shine. Hour number 1 of the show in the books. We'll mix in some basketball. We've got some Diamondbacks. We'll talk some Drew Petzing. We'll preview Monday Night Football. We got all of that in hour number 2. It's the lunch break here on KDUS, AM 1060.
Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale, Phoenix.
Your phone's blowing up, but you're in the driver's seat. Ignore the buzz, keep your eyes on the street. No text back, no scroll, just let it wait. Attention on the road, that's the only way. Phone's blowing up, but you're in the driver's seat. Ignore the buzz, keep your eyes on the street. No text back, no scroll, just let it wait.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
You know Brakes Plus are the brake experts. Come experience the Plus. From belts and hoses to shocks and struts, we do it all. We'll guide you through the repairs and provide transparent pricing without all the fancy extras. Mention this ad for $30 off brake pads or shoes. Visit brakesplus.com to schedule your appointment today, where practical people go for exceptional service.
When America says, give me a break, America comes to Brakes Plus.
At Shane Company, we'll help you create a ring as unique as your love story. We have the biggest selection of diamonds in all shapes and sizes, and center stones in an array of colors, including sapphires in blue, pink, green, lavender, and more. Just the other day, a couple picked out a blue sapphire that perfectly matched her eyes, and they left knowing her ring was truly one of a kind. That's what happens at Shane Company. Come check us out. You might just fall in love with something unexpected. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
You may not have any experience dealing with car wrecks, but Lerner & Rowe does. After your car wreck, you need an attorney to make sure your interests, like car repairs, medical bills, and lost wages, are protected. Finding the right attorney is actually easy. Just look for reputation, experience, and results. Lerner & Rowe has thousands of 5-star reviews, decades of experience, and we've recovered billions of dollars for our injured clients. Hurt in a wreck and need a check? Call Lerner & Rowe today.
Lerner & Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
It's the grand opening of Fulton Homes' newest master plan community, Acclaim. This beautiful community features open spaces, multiple parks, and a large aquatic center. Visit FultonHomes.com. Fulton Homes. You're proud to own. We're proud to build.
If you're a skilled trade person with a journeyman card from a registered apprenticeship, we've got an exciting opportunity just for you from Gateway Community College. Introducing the Journeyman to Associate's degree program at Gateway, where your expertise earns you more than just a paycheck. Our credit for prior learning program allows you to turn your industry credentials into college credit, putting you on the fast track to earning an associate degree without starting from square one. To see if you qualify, visit gatewaycc.edu/journeyman. That's gatewaycc.edu/journeyman to get started. Gateway, Maricopa Community College.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe, Phoenix, and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale, Phoenix.
Hour number 2, lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. A lot of football in hour number 1 of the program, so we'll sneak in some other stuff here, and the Suns are obviously a major topic of conversation with the preseason, the regular season right around the corner. Ryan Dunn is just making everybody lose their minds about what this team could be this season and him potentially being a breakout superstar. So that's where it feels the best place to start here for hour number 2, because it has been a very impressive preseason for Ryan Dunn and the Phoenix Suns. And I'll read you his stat line from last night's game. He scored 20 points. He had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. And I'm here to tell you none of that matters. None of those stats actually matter when it comes to considering the impact that Ryan Dunn can have on this team. The stat that you need to be paying attention to, and it's really the thing everybody was freaking out about last night, is he went 6 from 11 from behind the three-point line. Him being able to be an efficient shooter from behind the three-point line completely changes the outlook of this 2024-2025 Phoenix Suns team. Completely changes it. He is an elite defender. It's why he was drafted in the first round. But if you will remember, one of the knocks against him, why he wasn't a lottery pick, why he wasn't a top 10 selection, is he didn't have an extra element to his game. He was a really good defender, but that was it. He wasn't going to be able to add a whole lot else. And the Suns needed that help defensively. They lacked the length to be able to go up against the Minnesotas of the world, the Denvers of the world in a 7-game series in the postseason. They lacked the ability to put one guy on a star player on the other team and say, we're taking you out of this series, or we're taking you out of this stretch of 6 to 8 minutes. They didn't have that. They didn't have that eraser that could be a chess piece that they move around the way NFL teams take a corner and say, all right, Justin Jefferson, we're going to put our best corner on you. All right, Jamar Chase, you're not beating us today. We're putting Patrick Surtain on you. They didn't have that Swiss Army knife defensively. They didn't need a top-end scorer. That's not what they required out of the draft. They needed somebody that helped them on the defensive side of things. You're going to get the top-end scoring from Devin Booker. You're going to get the top-end scoring from Bradley Beal. You're going to get the top-end scoring from Kevin Durant. What this team needed going into a new coaching philosophy with Coach Budenholzer and him going to be a three-point shooting team and him wanting to not take a lot of low percentage or high percentage twos, but wants to shoot the three, wants to play quick. This new philosophy, this new era that this Suns team is going to be in, those three guys are going to carry a lot of the scoring. They needed the complementary pieces. And they had an extra shooter in Grayson Allen. He provided that fourth option scoring-wise. He provided that extra boost. He was their main three-point shooter last year. And so if you're going to add the defense that Ryan Dunn provides, and that has been as advertised from the word go, and you're going to get some level of a scoring element, you're going to get somebody that can be a 3-and-D type player, it completely changes the utilization of this team's entire bench. Because it would be really difficult. Ryan Dunn can be the greatest defender in the NBA this season. He can be defensive player of the year as a rookie. If he can't score, if he can't shoot, it's going to be really hard for Budenholzer to get him out there in key moments. I can envision it now. If this team is in a playoff series and they're struggling, and let's say they're down 10, 15 points and they need to go on a run, it makes no sense to give Ryan Dunn any minutes because he can't provide any scoring. His defense is great if it's a close game. If this is a game in the fourth quarter and Booker and Beal and Durant are locked in and this is a 93-92 going back and forth, yes, get me Ryan Dunn out there to be able to neutralize Anthony Edwards. Get me Ryan Dunn out there to take care of whatever player I want to match him up against. But if you're down 10 in the fourth quarter, if you're down 15 at the end of the third, you can't put Ryan Dunn on the floor if he's not going to give you something offensively. It becomes a bit of a game theory issue, a game script issue for Coach Budenholzer. Now, he doesn't have to shoot 6 for 11 every single night out on the floor, but if he is better than what he was in college, and that's the one thing that stopped him from being a top 10 pick, if you get that from him, it changes the game script. It changes the way Budenholzer can use him, and then we would be talking about the Suns getting a steal. Negativity's been kind of the theme today, so I'm going to bring it back because I want to pump the brakes a little bit on this. I don't want to go too goo-goo over a 6 for 11 shooting night and Ryan Dunn all of a sudden being the missing piece and the Suns are going to win the championship. Because I have a very recent example of a player being brought into a franchise, a player going to be a big impact as a rookie. This player was going to take the starting job from somebody. He was better than this player. He was going to get the lion's share of the workload. He was a home run hitter. He was what a steal by Monty Ossenfort to get this guy. Isn't that not what we just did in the summer with Trey Benson? Isn't that not what we just did with a running back who all in preseason, oh man, this kid, home run hitter, big playability. James Conner, middle of the season, going to be replaced. Trey Benson's going to take over for him. And everyone was like, oh, man, they got James Conner. You got Trey Benson. You add that to Marvin Harrison Jr. This offense is going to take on a whole new life. I'm still waiting. I'm not saying to give up on Trey Benson. I'm just saying maybe those expectations were too rich in the summertime.
Maybe we got a little ahead of our skis on talking about what Trey Benson's impact could be as a rookie. And that's the warning that I'm trying to give everybody here about Ryan Dunn. It is very impressive that he has seemingly made a fix to his shooting mechanics, and he appears to have worked on very tirelessly that part of his game. And I'm rooting for that to be the case, because if that is the case, then this is going to be a fun season for us to talk about here on the show. The Suns are going to be fun because that is an extra chess piece for Coach Bud to be able to use in game. If he doesn't have that, it becomes a little bit more difficult to utilize him. And so that's why everybody is going crazy about what you've seen so far. It's just preseason basketball. It doesn't matter if the Suns win or lose. But this takeaway, Ryan Dunn performing the way that he has, and it wasn't just this game. He played the Pistons, I think it was last week, and had another decent shooting night. I think he went 3 for 5 from behind the three-point line. If he adds that 3 to the 3-and-D role that they have carved out for him, it is very easy to see a scenario where in the fourth quarter, in crunch time of a close game, that Ryan Dunn, as a rookie, is on the floor playing very important minutes for the Phoenix Suns. And then it's a steal. And then we give the flowers to the Suns organization for standing pat, making the moves that they did on draft night, and being able to snag Ryan Dunn. But let's see that through. Let's get to a place where we're seeing that from Ryan Dunn on a consistent basis. Because at the same time, while this can be a very encouraging sign, while this can be very impressive, he is still a rookie. There are going to be bumps along the road. I don't think, are we rolling on this, Producer Dylan? This is being recorded for the podcast, because if I'm wrong here, we are going to get cold takes exposed hard for this. I don't think the Suns, in the selection of Ryan Dunn, got a Steph Curry-esque player, a Giannis-esque player, a superstar that fell in the draft that you look back 5 years and you go, how did that happen? How did that player fall to pick number 18, pick number 23? I don't think we're going to have that conversation about Ryan Dunn. I think we can have a conversation of, man, the Suns got a really good player. They've got a really nice piece to help with this core. That conversation I think we can have. I don't think we're going to have the conversation that the Suns got a superstar, all-NBA type player. And again, an impressive preseason. But let's just pump the brakes a little bit, because there's an example in town of this exact thing happening and the hype train just leaving the station. And there is nobody that throws their hype behind somebody more than me. If I believe in somebody, we're going to play Sounders in here. We're going to go all in. The hype train will emanate out of this studio. And it did for Trey Benson in the summer. People thought James Conner was going to be replaced as the starter. And yet here we are 6 weeks into the season, about to start week 7. And that hasn't happened yet. And it doesn't look like it's on the horizon. So just pump the brakes. Be excited, because he is showing flashes of the player that can have an immediate impact for a championship caliber team, a team that has championship aspirations. But don't immediately think that all the Suns' problems are solved and Ryan Dunn is a steal. He's a home run. The Suns have fixed everything. Off to the championship they go. Let's just pump the brakes on that a little bit. Let's be excited, because we're seeing improvement. We're seeing a player that is fixing one of the major flaws in their game, the thing that's going to keep them off the court. That's great. That shows a great work ethic. I love that. Again, this was a great pick. But let's just put the proper expectations on the table for this team, because I'm here to tell you, we did this last year with the Suns. We didn't set the proper expectations, and we saw what happened. We saw this team fumble and miss those expectations, and they had to fire their head coach, and they were a very quick exit in the postseason. So again, set the right expectations for Ryan Dunn and for the Suns accordingly, but get excited about what we've seen so far. There's some baseball going on. NLCS Game 2 starts in a little bit. ALCS Game 1 is a little bit later tonight. So there's 4 teams left. 4 teams left standing in the Major League Baseball playoffs. Is there anything for the Diamondbacks to learn from the 4 teams still left? We'll get into that next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Check out KDUS AM 1060 on 100.7 KSLX HD2. That's right, HD radio on 100.7 channel number 2.
Here in Flagstaff, Arizona, there are only two colors that matter: blue and gold. Head coach Brian Wright leads NAU football into a new era.
Down the sideline, it's going to be a pick six.
Join us Saturday. The Lumberjacks host the Idaho State Bengals for homecoming. Our coverage begins at noon on the NAU Lumberjacks Sports Network.
NAU Idaho State on AM 1060 KDUS.
Hi, I'm Tom Horn, Arizona Superintendent of Schools. My job is to further improve Arizona's already excellent public schools. But if your school is not meeting your child's needs, you have choices.
We have 4 children that all have special needs and they need specialized instruction. Without ESA, we would not ever be able to afford something like this. I encourage every parent to look into the ESA program. It's been invaluable to our family.
Learn more about ESAs at azed.gov.
Hey, PortaSubs fans, ready for a deal that's big on taste but light on your wallet? Make it a combo for just $2. Just $2 more. You can upgrade with chips and a drink. Get more meal for your money and make your lunch a combo. Head to PortaSubs and add chips and a drink for just $2. Offer available for a limited time only. Visit PortaSubs.com or order on our app.
Slice fresh sandwiches, PortaSubs.
Don't let prostate cancer sideline you. Early detection can save lives. Talk to Arizona Urology Specialists about getting screened. Arizona Urology Specialists, personal care for life's most personal issues. Visit ArizonaURO.com or call 602-887-2160.
This fall, choose Primavera Online, and you'll be choosing a school with flexibility, personalized support, and an award-winning curriculum that's over 20 years strong. Now enrolling grades K to 12 at ChoosePrimavera.com.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. After an unimpressive 2-3 start, the Jets officially parted ways with head coach Robert Saleh yesterday. QB Aaron Rodgers, always going to have pressure on him to perform with this roster. But after the Saleh news yesterday, if there wasn't pressure on Rodgers before, there surely is now. New York catered to Rodgers' every need since his arrival in 2023. The team brought in aging veterans like Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, named Rodgers' buddy Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator, built an elite defense, invested up front through the draft, and added 8-time Pro Bowler left tackle Tyron Smith to protect Rodgers' blindside. Despite the investments, through 5 weeks, the offense has produced the same number of points it did last year under Zach Wilson. Saleh may not have been the right choice for the job, but Rodgers hasn't exactly held up his end of the bargain either. So with management now pointing the finger at the sidelines, the pressure on Aaron Rodgers is now sky high in New York. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. We all know DraftKings Sportsbook makes watching football games even better. Well, now DraftKings has made their app even better with great new features like their withdrawal tracker. It shows where your money is every step of the way. When you make a withdrawal, it promptly tells you that it's processing. Then the moment your money is headed to you, and then right when it lands in your account. So you never have to wonder, am I going to get paid? It's like the tracker on your food delivery app, but instead of cold pizza, you're getting cold hard cash. DraftKings. We get you, so we got that. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for eligibility terms and responsible gaming resources.
HD Radio is here for KDUS AM 1060. Check out your favorite shows and games on 100.7 KSLX HD2.
Welcome back. Lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome in. First edition of the show. We're off to a good start. Lots to talk about today here. And we hope you're enjoying your lunch break with us on our lunch break here. And it wouldn't be me, and you'll learn this very quickly about me if you're joining us on a regular basis. I will find a way to sneak in a baseball segment anywhere that I can. And on a football Monday, it's hard to do so, but we will do so here because I think there is an interesting conversation to be had about this Diamondbacks team in relation to the teams that are still left. We were down to the Final Four in Major League Baseball. Game 2 of the Mets and Dodgers gets underway here in just about 40 minutes from now when we're done here on the air. And then game one of Guardians and Yankees gets underway a little bit later on tonight. I believe that is a 7 o'clock Eastern time start, so 4:08 for us here on the West Coast. And by the way, Producer Dylan, you can just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down to all of these statements. I don't think Diamondbacks fans rooting for the Dodgers, right? They're not rooting for the Dodgers. That would be a thumbs down. Yeah, definitely not rooting for the Dodgers. Well, they're not rooting for the Mets because in some way, the Mets are the reason why the Diamondbacks aren't in the playoffs. Now, I know the Diamondbacks' underperformance in the end of August and through September is the large reason why they aren't participating in September, but they had an opportunity. If the Mets would have won the second game of that doubleheader, it would have knocked out the Braves and it would have allowed the Diamondbacks to be in. So I don't think there's this great fanfare for the Mets to go to the World Series. So I don't know if they're rooting for anybody on the American or on the National League side of things. And on the American League side of things, definitely not rooting for the Yankees because nobody roots for the Yankees unless you're a Yankees fan. And then that leaves the Guardians as the only team that you probably could be rooting for. And what I find so interesting about that is not only is that the team that most Diamondbacks fans, if you had to pick a team to be rooting for, it's also the team that you have the most in common with. Because there's nothing that the Diamondbacks can take away from the Dodgers, the Mets, or the Yankees. There's nothing in the way that those three organizations are run, the way those three organizations are set up. You can't compare yourself to those three teams. Maybe you can take some institutional knowledge of the way they attack player development and the things that they look for in their analytics department, but you don't have the resources that those three franchises have. Those three teams are the top three teams in terms of tax payroll this year. So 1, 2, and 3 are the Mets, Dodgers, and Yankees in that order. All three of those teams, in terms of the luxury tax payroll, spending over $300 million. And they're the only three teams that are over $300 million. So there's nothing that you can take from them, because even if you wanted to take the institutional knowledge of how they scout or how they run their player development, what analytic models they are looking at, the way they scout internationally, all of those things, the reason why those franchises can be so good at those parts of running a baseball organization, and specifically the Dodgers, is because not only do they have the best, but they're spending the most money. It's not just about the payroll that you're spending on your players and your coaching staff. It goes beyond that. I mean, the New York Mets, a team that is in the NLCS, has spent a ton of money, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, developing a pitching lab down in Florida to help them work on pitching development. Sure, could the Diamondbacks set up the same equipment and hire similar coaches? Yes. But the Mets have a resource in Steve Cohen that will spend money. So yes, you can just look at payroll and see the disparity there, but there's also a disparity in the outside of payroll operation spending that these three teams do. The Dodgers to an elite level, which is why they've had the sustained success that they've had. So that gets us back to the Guardians, the one team that you can realistically compare yourself with. The Guardians 21st in tax payroll this year with $140 million. Now, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, if you're listening to the show, you're watching us on the YouTube side of things. Do you know where the Diamondbacks were this year in terms of tax payroll? $219 million. You didn't think that number started with a 2, did you? You thought it was going to be similar to the Guardians. So the Diamondbacks, in terms of tax payroll, spent $69 million more, or $79 million more. It's tough to do math, do live radio at the same time, than the Guardians did. So small market, yes, you can unite on that front, but you spent almost $80 million more on your team this year than they did. But let's, for just a moment, take a look at how the Guardians are built and why this should be the model. And it's why I think it is the model. And Mike Hazen's an incredibly smart GM. And let me get in front of this. This is the first time you're hearing me in this marketplace talk about Mike Hazen. You're going to learn very quickly. I think Mike Hazen is the best general manager in this town. I think Mike Hazen is on another level when it comes to running an organization. I think he's better than Monty Ossenfort. I think he's better than James Jones. I think he is the standard bearer of how to run a sports franchise in Arizona. I think he is an elite level executive. And I think the moves that he makes time and time again pay off. And so he's a guy that is looking at the way other teams are doing things. And the Guardians, I think, are a great example. Let's compare the two. The Guardians have one major superstar on their team that is underappreciated, that being Jose Ramirez. Does that sound familiar? The Arizona Diamondbacks having a superstar player that is underappreciated? Ketel Marte, anybody? Probably should always be in the MVP conversation every single year, but isn't, because they play in a small market, or the team doesn't, win 95 plus games, so they're just not permeating the national noise. So we've got that comparison between the two teams. The Guardians, an elite level bullpen, spearheaded Emmanuel Clase, Hunter Gaddis, and Cade Smith have also been good this year. And you can clearly see that that's what Mike Hazen is trying to set up for the future. Justin Martinez is going to be the closer of this team moving forward. A young arm, 100+ mile per hour stuff. And then AJ Puck is going to be one of your elite level setup men. So the Diamondbacks, in a lot of ways, are emulating, and not to say that they're copying, but these two teams have a lot of stuff in common. These two teams are built very similarly. Take your fan cap off for a moment. If you looked at the roster for the Arizona Diamondbacks, there are not a lot of household names that people would know. And you look up and down the Guardians roster, outside of Jose Ramirez, there are not a lot of household names. You're built with young, arbitration-eligible players, so you keep the cost down, and you supplant that with a couple of big fish that you spend a lot of money on. That's the way the Guardians are doing it this year, and it's the way the Diamondbacks have been doing it recently, up until this year, where they spent the most money that they've ever spent since Ken Kendrick bought the team. And he sure let you know about it with that Jordan Montgomery contract. That was all him. He's the one that greenlit that money. And so, to answer the question that I teased, is there anything the Diamondbacks can take away from the four teams still standing? Sure. Would we all love to have the purse strings that the Mets and Yankees and Dodgers have, to be able to consider any trade, to be able to consider any free agent? Absolutely. And I don't want to say it's easy, because these decisions are still tough, and you have to make sure that you pick the right player to allocate your money to. But it is easy to make the decision to want to sign Shohei Ohtani, and Shohei Ohtani wanting to come to your baseball team and just giving him all the money in the world. That's an easy thing to do. Diamondbacks don't have that luxury. They have to make sure that their moves, because they are only able to make a few big splashes, are impactful. And that's where there's only one team still standing that they can compare to. And it's the Guardians. They could have compared a little bit to the Royals if the Royals would have gone on. The Tigers as well. They're similar to those teams. But there's nothing. I mean, look at the National League playoff picture as a whole. Are they similar to the Phillies? No. Are they similar to the Padres? No. Padres are spending a ton of money. Even though they cut costs and traded Juan Soto, they still have a high payroll. You want to talk about the Brewers? Small market team, limited ability in terms of resources to improve their team, still won 93 games. Yeah, that's the model. Milwaukee, Cleveland, Kansas City. That's the water that Arizona should be trying to copy. That's the playbook that the Diamondbacks have to emulate. And they're, I think, setting their own course, their own playbook that other teams are trying to emulate. And so, that's the unfortunate thing for if you're not a fan of one of these four teams. If you're not watching this from a fan perspective, are you enjoying watching the Dodgers and the Mets and their combined payrolls being over $600 million? Are you enjoying that as a small market team? Are you enjoying that as a fan of the Brewers or the Diamondbacks or the Cincinnati Reds? Or are you enjoying that? You're not. And it's unfortunate, but that's where baseball is right now. Now, Phillies fans, they're out and they're probably thinking to themselves, okay, we'll just have to spend more, and we can spend more because we have an owner that will allow us to spend more. And there are other teams that can't do that. And so sports are copycat leagues, right? One team does something successfully and everybody tries to copy it. It's what the A's did with Moneyball, and then everybody tried to institute their version of Moneyball, their version of advanced analytics. And then you have these great teams, these teams that have fantastic payrolls, also adding that stuff in, and then they're becoming just machines. They're becoming institutions in how they are doing things. And that's where the Diamondbacks are trying to be, but just doing it on a smaller scale. Or I shouldn't say a smaller scale, but with a risk profile that is different. Their investments have to be different. They can't have the stock portfolio that's full of risky bets. They can't take a chance and give a big-time contract to a pitcher that has underperformed and has had an injury history. They can't give out those types of dollars to those players to try to get them to come to Arizona. They can't do it because if it fails, if those players continue to be hurt or continue to underperform, they can't get out from underneath those contracts. The Madison Bumgarner contract, a perfect example. The Zach Greinke contract, a perfect example. You can't get yourself out from underneath those contracts. And so if there's a team that you want to watch in this postseason that you want to root for, because it is a model that is very similar to the one that's here, it's the Cleveland Guardians. The way they are built is extremely similar to the way the Diamondbacks attempt to operate and how I think they will operate this offseason. We'll have more on that this week, talking about the Diamondbacks offseason. But back to some football here. Drew Petzing getting a lot of heat right now as the offensive coordinator for this team. Is there a coaching change on the horizon for the Arizona Cardinals? We will talk about the Cardinals potentially changing their offensive play caller next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Ready to bring KDUS AM 1060 into your home with Alexa?
Hi, I'm Alexa.
Download the KDUS AM 1060 skill and enable. Then say, Alexa, open KDUS AM 1060.
This is where I start my day.
Breaking news, and this one is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about new customers at Bet365 because they get $200 in bonus bets when they bet $5. And even better, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, and player props.
There you have it. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bet. And see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona. Terms and conditions apply.
Let me ask you a question. What's worse? A lawyer throwing on a leather jacket to try to convince people that he rides, or a lawyer standing up saying he fights for the motorcycle community when he's never gone to court for them once? Hi, I'm Mark Breyer.
And I'm Alexis Breyer. We're the husband and wife law team. And everybody in the motorcycle community knows the husband and wife law team for decades has been promoting motorcycle safety. And we show up in court to fight for you. Call the husband and wife law team first.
Deftones. North American Tour 2025. Live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, March 9th. With special guests, the Mars Volta and Fleshwater. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Presented by the Big Red Radio.
License number 146316.
That's right. As long as it's inspected once a year, if your fire door fails to work as intended, we are responsible. No problem at all. We'll be right out. Jeannie, I want to make a wish.
Hey, Tasha, what do you need?
I wish that... Wait, still blue?
Yes, but still can't do magic since the stupid Genie Eye Council took it away for not having my lamp inspected.
Aw, Jeannie.
Can't get an inspector till next month.
Next month?
How come ASAP is so fast?
Because with our annual safety and adjustment programs, our customers have scheduled inspections every year. No rush needed.
Shucks, you guys are so good at that.
And if any door doesn't work the way it's intended, we are responsible for it.
ASAP, commercialdoors.com.
Tasha.
Yes, Jeannie. What do you need?
ASAP should get certified to inspect magical lamps.
You want Jersey Mike's signature sub? You get a number 13 original Italian. You want a dramatic radio idea? You get me. Like this. I'm the 7th string quarterback and the other 6 quarterbacks go down. The coach yells, DeVito, you're in. The crowd is worried until I throw a touchdown. But the other team is celebrating. Apparently, I threw the Jersey Mike's number 13 original Italian I was eating on the sidelines. Whoops. The number 13 original Italian, Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Need social information about KDUS AM 1060? Try KDUS1060.com, at KDUS AM 1060 on Twitter, and Facebook.com/KDUS AM 1060.
Welcome back. Lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Hope you are enjoying your lunch break. We're on our lunch break here, and we will talk a little bit more about the Arizona Cardinals, and I want to do so by reading a tweet that I think is going to set the scene for this entire conversation when it comes to the offensive the coaching staff, or in particular Drew Petzing and potentially his future, because there's a lot of noise out there right now. And I've seen it on social media. It's been a topic of conversation that, do the Cardinals need to make a change of play caller? Is it time to let somebody else call the plays because the offense is getting off to these slow starts and they're struggling, and maybe it's time? And the problem with that is they don't have any great in-house options to replace Drew Petzing on this team. There is not somebody that is sitting in the wings that has been a veteran play caller in this league that could very easily step in and have things flowing much better from a game script perspective, from keeping the team on schedule. And so when you think about making a change like this, and it's a drastic change to change coordinators, to change play callers on either side of the ball, when you do that, you have to make sure that you have a in-house or readily available option to you that you feel extremely confident would make things better. And I don't know, this is not a slight at the rest of this coaching staff. I just don't know if there's enough experience to tell me that at 2-4, making a change is going to save this season for the Cardinals, and that Drew Petzing can't work through these issues to see if he can, by the end of the year, have this offense where it needs to be. This is a lost year at this point. This is a flawed football team. They're 2-4. They get off to terrible starts. What they did against the 49ers is not a repeatable path, a repeatable formula to winning football games. That's the outlier. Last week was the statistical outlier for the Arizona Cardinals. This week is more like what's going to happen week in and week out if they choose to play this way. If this is the effort, if this is the preparedness that this team is going to have. So let's talk about Drew Petzing, and let's talk about this offense as a whole. Kyle Odegaard, who does a great job covering some of the betting stuff on this, but covers the Cardinals, put out a tweet. And it's 2 tweets, but I'll read the first one to set the stage. He tweeted this morning, so this includes all of the numbers through week 6. The top 8 quarterbacks in total QBR this season. That's good. QBR, good stat. You want to be high up in the QBR metric. If you're in the top 8, it means you're playing pretty good at the quarterback position. You are efficient. You're keeping your team in games. You are a good quarterback. You're the top 8. Josh Allen. Okay, so far so good, 1 for 1. Joe Burrow, okay, 2 for 2. That offense, even though they only scored 17 points last night, throughout the first couple of weeks of the season, was averaging 28 points per game. So the offense is not the reason why the Bengals are struggling. 3, Jaden Daniels. That's not a surprise. Washington's off to a great start. Cliff Kingsbury seems to have found himself as an offensive play caller and is thriving in that role. And he's got a great quarterback that is learning the ropes very quickly in the National Football League. Okay, 3 for 3. Now this one is a bit of an out. Joe Flacco is number 4. And again, we played it when we did the NFL Rewind in hour number 1. Not sure how Joe Flacco is still doing this and how he is still putting up these types of numbers, but he's number 4 on this list. Brock Purdy, number 5. We know the statistical numbers he continues to put up, even though they haven't been firing on all cylinders. Lamar Jackson, 6. CJ Stroud, 7. Okay, those 2 MVP candidates make sense. Number 8, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, according to total QBR this season, is a top 8 quarterback. Yes, he's 8 out of 8, but he is a top 8 quarterback. And so Kyle, who put out that metric, put out that stat, then followed it up and said, quote, "This is a pretty predictive stat for team success in most cases. The win percentage of the top 7 quarterbacks." So all of the quarterbacks not named Kyler Murray on that list have a winning percentage of 585, above 500, winning close to 60% of their games. The Cardinals, a 33.3% winning percentage so far this season. The top 7, a 60% winning clip. The Cardinals, 33%. The point differential for the top 7 QBs on that list, a plus 142. The Cardinals, minus 30. The problem with this team is their defense is not giving them a chance. The offense can be better. Kyler can be better. He got the blame in hour number 1. He can improve his teammates around him. He can get more out of his teammates. He can get more out of himself. 1,000%. But he is putting up statistically numbers that should lead towards team success. And when that's not happening, you have to look around. And sometimes the easiest answer is the most obvious one. And the most obvious answer when it comes to the 2024 Arizona Cardinals through 6 weeks is their defense is haunting them. The slow starts are haunting them. The penalties are haunting them. The turnovers are haunting them. None of those turnovers yesterday were on Kyler Murray. He didn't throw a back-breaking pick six. He didn't throw a poorly timed interception when they were driving to try to take the lead. He didn't do any of that. 13 penalties for 100 yards. That's unacceptable. Now, the three and outs on 3 of their first 4 drives, yes. Kyler Murray shares some of the responsibility from an execution perspective. But I didn't watch that game yesterday and came away and say, man, Kyler Murray just was missing plays all over the place for 4 quarters, and the Cardinals should have won this game, and it was all because Kyler Murray missed Trey McBride on this play and missed James Conner on this. No, I don't have a laundry list of plays where Kyler Murray could have been better. I don't. Do I have a couple? Yes. He missed a couple of plays. Every single week, quarterbacks miss plays. Doesn't matter how well you play. I'm sure the Buccaneers, they scored 51 yesterday. In the film room today, Baker's going to be like, I missed this one. It could have been 65. It happens no matter what the team is, what the result is, what the score was. There are always plays that are missed. But that was not the reason why this team lost yesterday. This team lost yesterday because they're undisciplined. They lost yesterday because they turned the ball over and lost a turnover battle. They lost the game yesterday because their defense cannot pressure the quarterback. And I'm sorry, but Jordan Love is too good of a QB for you to not get sustained pressure, to just force them to think differently about how they call plays. They were able to operate anything they wanted to in the first half of this game and in phases of the second half. And so when we talk about making a coaching change in any capacity, coordinator, head coach, you don't do that unless it's complete rock bottom, or if you're the New York Jets. Those are the only 2 times when you make a coaching change out of nowhere. And I don't know if I feel to that level right now with Drew Petzing and this offensive coaching staff. Do I feel like there's missed opportunities? Yes. Do I feel like they can play better? Absolutely. Do I feel like Kyler Murray has not played up to the expectations that I think are very reasonable for the quarterback that we think he can be? Yes. All of those things can be true, but I can also think that changing the coordinator isn't going to fix this problem. It's a personnel and talent issue on the defensive side of the ball, in large part because Monty Ossenfort did not allocate the resources that the Cardinals had this offseason in free agency dollars and draft picks accordingly. And because they're hurt. Do I think it'd be infinitely better with Darius Robinson out there? No, but it would be better. This is a first-round caliber player. This is a player that in the preseason looked really sharp, looked like somebody that can create some havoc, and that's what this team needs right now. They need a havoc creator on defense. Now, mind you, the defense is the problem, and I don't even think a defensive coordinator change would matter. Do you sit and watch the games on Sunday and think that the reason why this team is struggling is because of the scheme, because of the play calls on defense? Or do you watch the game and go, man, they just don't have anyone that can get after the quarterback? Or, man, they're banged up in the secondary and they're missing X player or Y. Like, that's the reason why the Cardinals defense struggles, is they don't have the talent to match up against these opposing offenses. That's an organizational problem. That's not a coaching problem. I think the coaches are in large part getting the most they can out of that group on that side of the ball. And so you don't push these buttons. These are difficult buttons to press as an organization. Firing coordinators, firing coaches need to be the last resort. It needs to be past the point of no return. And I'm sorry, I do not feel, as we sit here on October 14th, on Columbus Day, after week 6 of the regular season, with 11 games to go for the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think we're past the point of no return. Do I have issues with this coaching staff? Absolutely. If it continues on this path, are we going to have conversations week after week after week that are like this? Yes. And is the meter for me going to turn more towards, okay, it might be time to completely hit the reset button with this coaching staff and with this quarterback and completely start over? We might get there. We might be barreling down right there. But right now, as we sit here in week 6, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. This team has shown in phases, in flashes. It has not been, I don't think, a complete effort for multiple weeks. The team that I think they can be. Because offensively, they're not dealing with a ton of injuries. Offensively, they're not dealing with a lack of talent. I just told you Kyler Murray is a top 8 quarterback when it comes to QBR. So they can get more out of their offense without needing to search for any outside answers. The defense, I don't know if they might, Producer Dylan, you might not be here tomorrow because the Cardinals might call you and they might ask you to play corner, or you might try out and be a special team. I don't know. But that's where they're at on the defensive side of the ball. They're out of options. They're getting banged up, and they were already dealing at a disadvantage in terms of lack of talent. Now, you could say very easily, you could call into the show right now, 602-260-1060, and say, Chris, Monty Ossenfort was dealt a bad hand. He had a lot of things that he had to clean up for, and it's going to take time. It's going to take multiple years, multiple off seasons for this to get fixed. And I'd grant you that. I would tell you, yes, you are correct. The cupboards were pretty bare here when Monty Ossenfort took over. But I can't help but think of all of the cap space that this team had in the offseason and they held on to. I don't even have the exact number in front of me, but I still think they have $30 million in cap space that they had at their disposal to add to this team, and they didn't. There were veteran free agent pass rushers available in the preseason, late into training camp, right before the season started, that could have been added to this roster to help make that just not a negative, just to have it be a net neutral. That was on the table for this team, and they didn't take advantage of any of those situations. Hassan Reddick is sitting out there not reporting to the New York Jets. Now, maybe they have called, but he could be coming back. That's an easy phone call to make. But now I think it's too far gone. You're 2-4. You're not playing very well, and you might need to start talking about which players this team can sell. But again, we're not there yet. We're going to allow the season to play out a couple more weeks. But so far, through 6 games, extremely disappointed because this is a flawed football team. Almighty how the time flies. Here we are. Last segment of the lunch break. We'll talk a little Monday Night Football and wrap up with final thoughts from Week 6 of the NFL. We'll do it next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Your caddy, Ray Adams, takes you beyond the 18th hole on Saturday mornings with Great American Golf from 6 to 7 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060. You're busy. We get it. Life moves fast, like watching your favorite team in the final minutes of the game. It feels like there's no time to catch your breath. But for the next 10 seconds, this is your time to center yourself like the pros. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Feel that? A little more relaxed, like the calm before a big play? Now that your mind's a bit clearer, let's talk about something that can feel like a mental game right now. Voting. This election has been intense. Kind of like watching your favorite team's season of ups and downs. Sometimes it feels a little easier just to tune it out, but being a part of the action is what counts. We can't have anyone sitting on the sidelines. Voting is the ultimate act of self-care. It's not just about you, it's about everyone in the stands and on the field. We need everyone in the game. So follow the voting playbook. 1, check your registration. 2, check in with yourself. And 3, check your voting plan. Head to rockthevote.org today and show up for your future self and for the team.
Welcome to Barney Farms, your new home in Queen Creek, an oasis of comfort and excitement, where the outdoors feels as much a part of your home as the home itself. Visit FultonHomes.com. Fulton Homes, you're proud to own, we're proud to build.
Casino Arizona is uniquely Arizona. Feel at home with the Valley's one true locals casino, from the welcoming, friendly smiles to the slot win high five celebrations. Picture yourself with the coolest cast at our blackjack tables. Dine like a rock star at our buffet or Choya Steakhouse, where even the steaks are famous. Want to stack up rewards while having fun at your favorite casino? Join Salt River Rewards, and the excitement keeps rising with every return visit. Casino Arizona, uniquely Arizona. Must be 21 years of age or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
A family called us recently after being told they had no case.
But we found evidence many others had missed and helped them win the largest car crash verdict in Arizona that year. Hiring the wrong lawyer can cost you everything.
Call the husband and wife law team first.
Have you downloaded the KDUS AM 1060 skill for Alexa yet?
Food. Alexa is frustrated. No matter how many times do you ask, the answer is mail, chicken.
Once you're ready, say Alexa, open KDUS AM 1060 to listen to your favorite shows.
Back to wrap up the first edition of the lunch break. Can't wait to be back here again tomorrow. Again, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday until the time changes for everybody else. Then we'll slide back from noon until 2 p.m. But during your lunch break, join us on our lunch break here again, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., at least all of this week. And a lot of football has been covered. One more game for us all tonight. The Bills take on the Jets. And listen, I'm an East Coast guy. Let me just put that up front. Born in New York, born and raised there, came out here for school, have been out here ever since, covering these teams, talking about these teams for the last decade. New York sports today, you have the Mets and Yankees starting tonight, or the Mets playing a little bit game 2. The Yankees start ALCS tonight, and then the Bills and the Jets. So just craziness back on the East Coast. I long for the opportunity that we would have here in this town to have the Diamondbacks and Cardinals both being good, both playing at elite levels on the national stage at the same time. I mean, that would be a blast to be able to talk about the Cardinals and Diamondbacks being both relevant and being in the national spotlight at the same time, the way that it is in New York this time of year with 3 teams, 4 because Buffalo technically in New York, so they still count as a New York teams, those 4 teams up there. So let's talk about that Monday night game, because it's an interesting one, because it is eerily similar to the place that the Cardinals found themselves in. So you're going to get to watch tonight a team that is, or at least was, in a very similar boat that the Cardinals were in coming into this week. The Cardinals entered this week with a win. They would have been in a statistical tie for first place in the NFC West. The New York Jets tonight, when they take on the Buffalo Bills, with a win to get to 3-3, which is what the Cardinals would have been if they beat the Packers yesterday, will be in a statistical tie for first place and technically have the tiebreaker because they beat the Bills. So this is exactly what all of last week for the Cardinals was leading up to. The Jets have the same situation tonight. And oh, by the way, for all the people that want coaching change in Arizona, the New York Jets enter this game tonight 2-3 with a win, putting themselves into first place with a new head coach and a new offensive play caller. So here you go. You wanted to see what this looks like. You are getting a glimpse into the future of what coaching change in the middle of the season this early looks like. See how it looks tonight when you're watching the Bills and the Jets take the field. When Jeff Ulbrich, who was the defensive coordinator, is now the interim head coach, still going to handle things on the defensive side of things. No Nathaniel Hackett calling plays on the offensive side of things. They've turned that over to Todd Downing. This is what Cardinals fans have been asking for. Got to get Drew Petzing out of here. Don't like this coaching staff. Okay. You want a glimpse of what that looks like? Watch tonight's game. And who knows? The Jets might win the game, and you might call tomorrow and tell me that I'm wrong. But watch this game tonight, because I think you're going to get a real nice glimpse into the future of what it is that you're asking for. And I'm here to tell you, it's not pretty. That's not a pretty place to be making a coaching change 5 games into the season, to changing your offensive play callers 5 games into the season. That team has Super Bowl aspirations. That team has playoff expectations. That team has a reason to push every button possible to try to get things back on track. The Arizona Cardinals, this is year 2 of a process. And yes, you wanted there to be an increase in the wins. You wanted there to be an increase in the competitiveness. Fair enough. We're 6 games into the season. Let's relax a little bit. Let's calm down a little bit before we start calling for coaches to be fired. Because very quickly, if you make a coaching change on the offensive side of the ball, your defense is still going to be a problem. So are the calls for a defensive coaching change going to happen? Then at that point, there's only one person left if it continues to struggle, and that's the head coach, the guy who got the lion's share of the blame for what happened yesterday, at least on this show. And then you run into a place of, okay, you're going into the offseason without a head coach, without an offensive coordinator, without a defensive coordinator, because you've completely changed everything about this team. And you're going to have to make a very important decision about whether or not Kyler Murray is your quarterback of the future. Wouldn't you rather, if that's the place you're going to get to, let the process play out? Let these guys see what a full offseason of adding talent to the offense, attempting to add talent to the defense, a full offseason of instituting the system, what that looks like, being able to make midseason adjustments. Let's see what this looks like. If this completely slides off the rails and we're talking about a team that's 2-10, albeit phone lines will be lighting up, we'll be taking those calls, we'll be having those conversations. Fine by me. There's nobody who loves talking about the NFL draft more than me, so we will welcome the conversation here on the show. Baseball and the NFL draft. You can expect that to drive a lot of our conversation January through March. But not now. Not on October 14th. Not when the team that we're talking about, albeit flawed, with a win yesterday, would have been tied for first place. The NFC West has told you, not as good as maybe we thought. Now, the Cardinals have told us not as good as we thought, a team that has some problems that need to be addressed. But let's give them the opportunity to work through them. If the slow starts continue, if the penalties continue, and oh, by the way, and I'm not going to do the show before the show because we'll turn the page and start talking about the Cardinals' next opponent in the middle of the week. But their next opponent, bad matchup for a team that is playing this way right now. Because the team that you're playing, the coach that you're going up against, thrives in taking advantage of these situations because he has his teams prepared. He has his teams ready to go. They play a style of football that is very counter to all of the strengths of this team right now because the Cardinals get the Monday night game next week against the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is going to have that team ready to go. Jim Harbaugh is going to have that team playing a style of football that is going to stress these issues that we're talking about. And so we'll have that conversation as the week progresses and as we turn the page towards week 7. We'll do that. And so we'll get a very quick opportunity to see if this team can bounce back because they have. The one thing this team has shown is when things go sideways like this, there's a very quick bounce back performance to bring us back in, to reel us back into thinking like, oh, wait a minute, maybe they figured it out. Maybe they know what they're doing. Maybe we just needed to give it time. And so that is going to be my message today. I know we've been very negative, and so I'm trying to end it on a positive note here today. But I think this team, this organization, this coaching staff, just give it a little bit of time. And if it continues to slide the way that it is sliding, if it continues to look the way it has been looking, and you don't see the improvements on Sunday, on Monday, on Thursday, whenever the Cardinals play, then yes, let's entertain those conversations. But to tie it back to what we were originally going to talk about in this segment, you're going to get a glimpse of what you think you want in the future tonight when the Jets take the field. And so ask yourself while you're watching the game, if the Jets continue to commit penalties, if the Jets continue to have procedural issues with their offense, if the team continues to get off to slow starts, if the team continues to not figure out a way to utilize the talented players that they have, ask yourself, is this what I want my team to look like? Is this what I want the Arizona Cardinals to do? Do I want them to make the wholesale changes that the New York Jets did? Do I want my franchise the rest of the way, my team, the team that I'm going to be watching every single Sunday, do I want it to look like that? Ask yourself. The Jets go out there and they blow the doors off the Bills 47-7, then yeah, maybe you want it to look like that. But there's number 8's playing quarterback and a little different than the way Kyler Murray plays the game and has been doing it a lot longer and has won a couple more MVPs. But again, be forewarned. Be careful what you wish for because I think tonight, just my personal opinion, I think the Bills win the football game. I think it's close. I think the Jets defense will play very well, but I think their offense has too many problems and you're going to see a team that's going to continue to struggle. And so again, ask yourself if you want to open the door to that chaos because it is one thing to say that you want these wholesale coaching changes. The moment you make that decision, you open the door and you invite chaos to the party. You sent out the guest list and you said, chaos, join us. And for this team right now, stability is what they require. And I think giving this team an opportunity, giving this coaching staff an opportunity to correct these mistakes that have plagued them over the last couple of weeks. Look, the 13 penalties for 100 yards, that is not something they've been doing week in and week out. That was a blip on the radar for this week to that extreme. The turnover's not great. The slow starts, yes, that has been a thing. That has been a recurring problem. So that has to be addressed. But like I said at the top when we did the daily special, the three stats that told the story of this game, the 3 turnovers, the 13 penalties, and the 89 yards on the ground. The 2024 Arizona Cardinals are not going to win football games with those statistics. If I told you those statistics on Friday when we make our picks, and by the way, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about this. Every Friday on the show, we are going to be doing ultimate branding opportunity for me, the Schubert 6. So I'm going to make 6 picks with confidence. So a 6-point play, a 5-point play, a 4-point play, 3, 2, 1, you know the drill. We're going to keep track of these. Producer Dylan will probably get in on the fun, make some picks on Friday. So the confidence picks will roll in. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that the Cardinals will be a part of the confidence picks. Well, I don't know if their game against the Chargers on Monday night will get in there. But this team needs an opportunity to see this through, to make the adjustments that I think they can make. Because, and we talked about it a little bit in the last segment in terms of firing Drew Petzing, but I don't watch the games and I think that Jonathan Gannon is a head coach that doesn't know what he's doing. I don't watch the games and think that Jonathan Gannon is like Robert Saleh in the sense that I can't figure out what Robert Saleh was doing for the New York Jets. I can't figure out where he was impacting the game in a positive way. I can see the way Jonathan Gannon impacts this team. I can see the way he's a leader. It just isn't all clicking right now. And so let's give it some opportunity to click. Let's give it an opportunity to look like the team that we think it can look like. But a disappointing performance. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Those statistics that I read at the beginning of the show were bad. You can't go on the road and play that type of way and expect to win a football game. It's just not going to work. You're not going to win that way. You're going to get blown out more often than not if you play that way. The first edition in the books. It's a lot of fun. Producer Dylan, thank you for pushing all the buttons, making sure that we stayed on the air the entire time. That was most important job of the whole show, was you making sure that we stayed on the air the whole time. So appreciate that. Appreciate you taking time to join us here on your lunch break. We are back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the next lunch break. We will talk to you then. See you, everybody.
AM 1060.